it took them just 2 months to get trashing the royal family against Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. They've dried their crocodile tears for the Queen that they shed, 2 months ago at a funeral. They're back again to dishing the dirt on Harry's family. In fact, they will fly to New York to accept the human rights support from the Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights Foundation for their heroic stand fighting the royal family's supposed racism. The foundation's president, Kerry Kennedy, daughter of the former US Attorney General, said they went to the oldest institution in UK history and told them what they were doing wrong, that they couldn't have structural racism within the institution and that they couldn't maintain a misunderstanding about mental health as well. Joining me from London is Tom Slater, editor of Spiked Online. Tom Slater, do Harry and Meghan deserve an award for heroism fighting this royal racism?
I think they deserve an award for misremembering things, to be honest, because all of the allegations that they've made against the royal family in relation to questions of racism in particular, but not exclusively, have often kind of collided with a slightly different reality. I wouldn't want to accuse Harry and Meghan of lying necessarily. But, at the time of the Oprah Winfrey interview, the palace famously said recollections may vary, and they vary a fair bit. So on the various allegations of racism, they haven't really been substantiated. Meghan claimed in that interview that they actually got married 3 days before officially the royal wedding. The Archbishop of Canterbury, of all people, have said that that wasn't actually the case. Recently, we've had Meghan claim that she spoke to a South African actor who told her that South Africans celebrated on the streets in the same way they did when Mandela was freed. The gentleman in question has no recollection of this particular exchange. So if they're giving out awards for a bad memory, that would make sense. But as kind of heroes of human rights, that doesn't really stack up. And it's probably a bit of an insult to the people who really do work hard and toil in that particular endeavour.
Yeah, the only fight that I can remember them ever having with the palace on racism was that claim to Oprah Winfrey, where she said, someone said they wondered about the race of the baby, the colour of the skin of the baby I'm going to have. Well, since then, Tom Bower in his book on Meghan Markle says, well, it was actually Camilla, now the Queen, joking when red-haired Harry was first dating Meghan about the baby maybe having a red afro. That, to me, is the extent of the supposed structural racism. But what is structural racism when we're talking about, if it's even true, a affectionate joke?
Well, exactly. And it's worth remembering how Meghan put it. She said in that interview that there were conversations and concerns about what colour his skin might be, which sounds like some horrible conversation about, I hope he's not too dark, something that we would all find objectionable. But again, you get to what seems to be the substance of this, at least according to Tom Bower, and it is effectively just a light-hearted joke. But it's like this with a lot of these allegations that Meghan and Harry have made. For instance, that Archie didn't get a title, even though we all know that Prince Charles, or King Charles now I should say, is keen on slimming down the monarchy. So none of it has ever really stacked up. But I think it was, largely speaking, it was a credulous media set, particularly in the UK, but in the US as well, who just swallowed all of this wholesale.
Well, actually, this is what I find really fascinating. I mean, there are two elements to it. Harry and Meghan, the King reached out during the funeral, included them in the ceremonies in the morning, forced his eldest son to take Harry and Meghan with him when they inspected the flowers outside the palace, all that kind of stuff. And we thought, Harry might think better. There was even rumours he'd take out bad bits in his forthcoming book about the royal family. Not a bit of it. They're back to the same old trough. But the other thing is, Americans seem to believe this. They actually seem to believe the palace is structurally racist.
I know it has just become a bit of a racket. There's no two ways about it. And I also think it just speaks to the fact that, Harry and Meghan, and this is probably why they were never going to work in the modern royal family, even though it is in the process of trying to update itself, is that they are kind of fundamentally interested in talking about their own story, about their own feelings. And you have to put that to one side when you're serving a broader institution. You combine that with the fact that a lot of these claims don't seem to really stack up. And there's a reason that this works in America but not in the UK, because a lot of British people looking at these claims know that they don't really stack up, know that they're nonsense. But in America, because they can just project their own kind of racial politics onto it, it makes more sense for them, I suppose.
Correct. Listen, I've only got half a minute of your speaking time left, but I've got to ask, your new Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, very strong a couple of weeks ago about this $2 trillion UN climate fund that Australia's just signed up to give money to poor countries because of our emissions. Your Prime Minister said, no, he'd never sign a reparations fund, which I thought, great. But then he signed up to this, now that it's been renamed a loss and damage fund instead. How's that going down in Britain?
Not well. I mean, there's a lot of people who are really feeling the pinch, to put it lightly, in this cost of living crisis that we find ourselves in. Projections of their living standards to tumble even more over the next couple of years. And yet you see Rishi Sunak glad-handing at these events, which he originally said he wasn't going to go to because he had bigger things to deal with. Signing people up for these things. And this is the thing, as you see it's in Britain, I'm sure you see it in Australia, you see it across the Western world. Yes, people are concerned about climate change, not least because they've been fed a pretty steady diet of propaganda about how terrifying it's going to be. But fundamentally, they don't want this to come at the cost of their living standards, whether it's in the form of funds to different parts of the world or whatever.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing that people really can't get over.
So, look, I thought it was a Conservative Prime Minister. There you go. Tom Slater, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.